What's up, folks? I am MrBitter, and I am kicking off a new interview series on behalf of the Razer Academy. I am on the line with one guy that I think you all are going to be pretty familiar with. It's Dario Vunch. Hello, TLO.
Hello, how you doing, man?
I'm wonderful, and as I say this, I'm realizing that I did a bad job setting up the cams, so I'm going to get them fixed right here, just in real time. That's how prepared I am. And boom, nailed it. Beautiful. Fixed
Good
it
job.
on the fly, just like that. That we roll. Kind of. Good enough for me. TLO, you've kind of been off the radar a little bit, man. Where have you been? What's been going on? Why haven't we heard as much from Dario recently?
Well, actually, I thought I'm kind of coming back lately on the radar because I thought I was doing pretty okay in the past few events. I did all right at Home Story Cup and all that, but I haven't been to many MLGs and that kind of stuff. That's right, because I've mostly been focusing on training, which obviously is starting to pay off a little bit. Not quite yet where I want to be, but it's going pretty well.
I don't mean to say that that you haven't been performing well, because when I've seen you play, I've been very, frankly, pretty impressed with the level you've been bringing. But what I mean to say is, if we look back earlier in the life of StarCraft 2, for instance, you were everywhere, man. You were streaming, you were talking to your fans, you were showing up all around. Like every event was either featuring TLO or casted by TLO or guest starring TLO, or there's a TLO cameo somewhere or a TLO photobomb. What was the catalyst for you kind of stepping back and saying, "Hey guys, I don't want to be in the spotlight all the time"?
Well, first of all, it's just very understandable. I think that it's just very exhausting to always deliver and to always be out there because everybody's going to expect a lot of you. And also, it's just physically exhausting to be everywhere because, sadly, I can't split myself up into a couple of things at the same time. And my play was suffering from it, and I think my health and well-being was suffering from it a little bit too. So I tried to organize my life a little bit more and focus on the essentials of StarCraft 2, my practice and my life, and not trying to do everything at once, basically. It's very hard to be an entertainer, personality, and a top player all at the same time, and then cast something as well on top of that. So I had to step it back a little bit, I guess.
Okay. Now, you took a little bit of, I'm gonna say you took kind of an extreme approach to the way that you kind of conditioned yourself. You said, all right, I'm gonna adopt some new training methods. I'm gonna grow out my beard until I get certain results. You were in and out of Korea. By the way, Dario, where are you right now?
Right now I'm in Berlin, in Germany, where I'm currently living again. It's been kind of 2 years for the first time that I'm really living in Germany. And it's nice to be back with family and friends and all that stuff. So and it's good here. It's good. It's a good hub for esports as well, I think, because Berlin is kind of in the heart of Europe, and you can go everywhere pretty quickly.
Awesome. So going back to my the question that I kind of started, you have definitely gone through the whole range of training styles and of maybe even gamer philosophies. What is your current mindset for practicing StarCraft 2 and for preparing for an event?
It's all about structure, really, and about having consistency, which I think most pro gamers are not that good at. Me neither, actually. I still have to force myself really, really hard to have a rhythm. But I think that's the most important part to improve upon something, is to have structure in it. For example, if you're going to play against Immortal All-In, there's like 20 responses that you might potentially know what you kind of want to do against it, but then you have to narrow it down to like one or two methods to always train the same over and over again, because then you can actually make progress. If you have like 10 different ways to respond to it, rather than 2, you would have to theoretically train 5 times as much to make it to be as effective, if you catch my drift. And I think that goes to all kinds of levels. You have to try to have the same kind of daily rhythm, and you have to have consistent approaches to the game in general.
Right. You've done the team house thing. You lived in the OGS house when that was a thing. You lived in Korea with some of your Liquid teammates for a period of time. Now you're back in Germany. What lifestyle do you prefer when it comes to being a better gamer?
Well, that's a really hard question. Like, individually, for me, I would like to have
You even did the house in Sweden too. So I mean, you have done all of it, man. You have seen every extreme from having to motivate yourself to dealing with the rigors of being in this environment with friends where maybe there isn't that regulating body in the house, somebody saying, "Hey, I'm going to crack the whip, make sure you're practicing," to doing the Korean team house thing. Seriously, Dario, when it comes to somebody who has experienced all the different spectrums of training, you have done it all.
Okay, so here's my ideal picture of a training environment. Okay, it's an apartment building. Every programmer has his own apartment, and then there's one apartment which is the pure practice apartment. And then everybody has like all the advantages of living at home and having your own space, and not having to share rooms, or like being crowded up together, and only kind of having a life of gaming, because it's hard to differentiate when you live in a programming house between free time and everything, because it's always about gaming. So that's my ideal scenario. Would be 10 programmers living in the same apartment building and having an office or like an additional apartment to train together. But then you have best of both worlds, right?
Right, together but separate.
Yeah.
What value do you place on waking up in the morning and going to work? And what I mean by that is so many teams have done this thing where you live and you train in the same space. Are they doing it wrong? Is it better to have separation from your work and your home?
I don't think they're doing it wrong. I just think esports doesn't really have the funding yet that everybody can afford like a training house and then like living space for everybody separately. I would assume if the teams would have the money, they would be okay with doing that. And it also depends on the players, because some people kind of slack on their own. So then it's maybe good if they are just forced to be together all the time, and then they kind of motivate each other. But I think we're just not that far yet that we can really experiment with both models. I prefer to like leave the space that I'm training at, and even if it's just well, I mean, it's going to be different now, because for me, I'm going to be living at home, so I'm actually going to be training in the same space that I'm sleeping at as well and stuff. But when it comes to a practice house, it would be nice for me to have a sleeping space and a training space, I think.
Cool. Now, I want to just get a little bit of fun recollection out of you here, Dario, because I've talked to Rhett, for instance, about living in the OGS house. He's one of the guys that lived there with you at a point, and he hated the fact that there wasn't really a whole lot of privacy.
Yeah.
Now, you're a German. Germans go to the sauna full nude, co-ed. Like, is that an issue for you? Tell me about living in Korea with all these pro gamers. Are you cool just kind of walking around in the buff, being like, "Oh, hi, MC"?
Well, like, I probably wouldn't be bothered by nudity so much as just the social tension of living together that closely. Like, okay, like I don't like it when dudes walk around in the bathroom naked together with me. Like, that's nothing German, I think. I actually don't like the whole like nudity thing on beaches and stuff that much either, because I think each to his own, right? But yeah, I didn't like that either. I think I can get really, really upset and mental if I'm forced to be very close to a lot of people, because once in a while I just need my own space. And I did experience it when I was in Korea, that especially in the OTS house, which was much more crowded than the last solution we had, that at some point I just hated every single human being, and I was very close of becoming a serial murderer, I think, because at some point, like, it's just natural, right? Like,
it's just natural to become a serial murderer.
No, but we are herd animals, but also we are individuals, and if that individuality is like taken away from you, you just feel upset and like bad about it. I couldn't never go to the military for the same reason, because I need my own space, and sometimes I just want to wander off for 2 days and not see a single human being. And then maybe next week I want to go to 3 parties, but I have to have the option to do both.
Going back to the house in Sweden that a lot of people I think have forgotten about at this point. I had almost forgotten about it at this point in the life of StarCraft 2. What doomed that project? Why didn't that work out?
I think it was lacking structure, most of all, because I think being in Korea together with Koreans, you just have a base level of discipline that is a little bit more higher than the foreigners. By putting together a house with only foreigners, you most definitely need a coach and like a strict plan, I think. Not to say like foreigners are slackers, but
kind of we are.
Yeah. Well, kind of. And like in Korea, you're also in Korea on a mission. So like you get reminded of the fact that you have to train all the time, because that's why you're in Korea. While when you're in a foreign country, which is funny to say it like that, but you know what I mean. If it's in a non-Korean country, you don't have that feeling of a mission as much, I think.
You talk about structure, and that actually kind of segues nicely into the next thing I want to talk about with you. You are a very mental, I'm going to say person, a very cerebral person, right? Like I would say, and I mean, I'm by no means able to maybe make a fair analysis, because I only know you from the events I've worked where you've been there and the limited interactions we've had. But you are analytic. You're a little bit philosophical. And I feel like you put more thought into your training and into your lifestyle than a lot of other people do. For instance, I think it was in Finland, Assembly Winter 2012, when you were talking about how you had a great deal of respect for the way professional athletes train, and you were starting to integrate that into the way that you train for esports. Talk to me a little bit, Dario, about the philosophy that you bring to playing and practicing StarCraft.
Okay. Well, basically, I try to have a very open mind when it comes to the level we are at the moment. Lots of people think, well, sometimes my language is a little bit wrong, but okay, I need some structure once again to formulate that correctly. Basically, I realize StarCraft 2 is an extremely new sport, esport in general. And because of that, I know that we can learn a lot from more developed sports, because history tells us that at the beginning of a sport, the level is very low compared to what you're going to have in 10 to 20 years after the sport really takes off. And that makes me realize that even the best players in StarCraft 2 cannot have the perfect practice regime just because it's still new and we haven't figured everything out. And that makes me think about things. And because other sports already did figure it out, and there's some general rules that apply to every competitive environment, that's why I like to look at other sports and try to steal their knowledge and apply it to StarCraft 2, I think.
I love the way that you connect real sport to esports, because it's really in line with the way I think about the game. When you're practicing StarCraft, or I guess before I ask my question, I wanna tell a short story. There was a great post made on Team Liquid about a guy who was having a conversation with a concert pianist. He asked the pianist, you are one of the most celebrated musicians in the world. Why are you better than any other music major who goes to college to study piano? And the pianist says, it's about the way that I practice. Your typical musician is going to sit down and play a piece of music. As he's practicing, he'll go from beginning and he'll finish at the end. A truly great musician is only going to practice the difficult parts because he can do the easy stuff on command. My question for you is, what is different about the way that you practice StarCraft versus the way that you see so many people practice StarCraft that you might think is wrong?
Okay, actually, you're making a beautiful point to mention something that's going to happen in Heart of the Swarm and what's going to change practice entirely. But first to the present. I think I try to think more about my game. The problem, well, I'm just going to go right into it. The problem of StarCraft 2 at the current point is that we're always playing full matches. Just like the normal musician would play a complete piece. But once again, also looking at different sports, it's not really the majority of the time an athlete would spend on playing a complete match. Let's say a football player, or as you would say, a soccer player, probably only spends maybe 1/3 or less of his time to actually have like a 60 or 90-minute training session of a real match. Most of the time, he's going to have much more ball connections because he wants to train specific situations. And in a normal match, most of the time, it's just going to stand around and not do anything because it's gonna split over the map, over the field. I mean, and so if you want to train efficiently, you have to do more than in a normal match, right? And same in StarCraft 2, the problem is, okay, the first 5 minutes, nothing interesting really happens. I've done that 1,000 times. I'm not making any more mistakes with that. So I'm essentially wasting the first 5 minutes of every single match when it comes to practice time. Okay, so here's what's gonna change in Heart of the Swarm. You're gonna have the option to resume a game from any given time in a match, right? So what then is gonna happen is that I have a big battle at minute 15, and I'm gonna play that battle 20 times in a row. And that's gonna be much more efficient to the whole approach of training in StarCraft 2, because suddenly I can improve my control, I can only play the intense parts of the match over and over again, and I think that's going to help people improve much faster. I think that was on topic, right?
So, yes, sir. I think that's a fantastic answer for what it's worth. And I love it. I love the notion of training specific aspects of your game versus training your game, because like you said, you do lose so much time repeating the same facets of the game that you don't need to train versus focusing on the parts that you do. Cool. Well, this lets me transition a little bit into talking some about Heart of the Swarm, which, as we know, comes out March 12th. The beta has been around for a little while. You have been, at least initially, a little bit reluctant to jump into Heart of the Swarm. You trained Wings of Liberty for a long time.
Yeah. There's 2 reasons for that, or maybe 3. One problem is from Europe to America, it's still extremely laggy. Lots of the time, you have so many spikes that it's not really enjoyable. But it's a pity because now all the American players can already train a lot. Not that it's gonna help them a lot, because, yeah. But maybe that's why Blizzard is doing it. Just give their home guys a little bit of a startup. Anyways, just kidding, of course. Yeah, Europe is
okay.
Blizzard.
It's okay. You're not kidding.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the lag makes it not that enjoyable for me, and it's really hard to not get frustrated if you lose silly matches because of that. And also because I just still play Wings of Liberty tournaments, and I don't want to waste Team Liquid's money for sending me to tournaments when I'm not practicing the game anymore. So I'm just going to finish up with the last tournaments coming up. And after that, I'm going to go right into Heart of the Swarm, basically.
Cool. Well, you became incredibly famous during the StarCraft 2 beta because you're the little one. You're the guy that does all the crazy stuff. That, oh my God, he burrowed his he made infestors. This is revolutionary. What about you? What part of your personality, what part of the way that you play StarCraft makes you so strong when we have all this extra freedom, all this newness, and we can kind of say there is no standard, there is no metagame to follow? What's led to your initial rise to, I guess, esports stardom?
I guess there's maybe two reasons for that. First of all, I've been playing a ton of video games of all kinds of genres all my life long, probably much more so than most people. And I was always pretty competitive about it because I have three bigger brothers. So we didn't just play games, we really competed against each other from the early start. But we switched games very quickly. So maybe 2 weeks we would play that game against each other, and then next 2 weeks we would play a completely different game. So it was all about really quick mastery to beat my brothers. And I think that probably helps. And also in general, which is a little bit of a burden, but also positive side is that I have really wide interests in things and a pretty open mind, but I have a hard time focusing on a single thing in my life. So that helps me have an open mind about the game, but it can also be harmful because I'm jumping between build orders and I'm not just training the same build over and over again. But in these initial phases of the game, I just see things more quickly because of that, because I'm just used to be in a constant flux of redefining the way I'm playing, which hopefully I'm going to be able to control more in the future, that it's not going to be as harmful to my playstyle anymore. But in the beginning of Heart of the Swarm, it should be a little bit of an edge for me, I think.
I'm really excited to see what you do with Heart of the Swarm when you really dive into it. Again, you were lauded for your creativity in the beginning of StarCraft 2. When you look at Heart of the Swarm and you look at the new unit interactions, and you say to yourself, well, this looks kind of cool, that looks kind of cool. What is exciting you most? What has you salivating? And will you, I have to ask the question, will you stick to Zerg, or will you be making those jumps that you made in the early part of your StarCraft 2 career as well?
I will absolutely stay Zerg, because Heart of the Swarm is turning Zerg into the TLO race entirely. Like, every single change to the Zerg race is good for me. I'm happy about, well, right now the Infestor is actually better in Heart of the Swarm than in Wings of Liberty.
Whoa.
Well, I don't know. But
like, whoa. Damage nerf, projectile cast, you have barely got a little more range.
No, well, 10 range and projectiles can be a good thing. That's the thing that people are missing. Because if somebody is coming towards me, projectiles give me additional range. Only when I'm chasing somebody, projectile take away range, basically, that I can hit an opponent in. But if somebody is coming at me, an Infestor is going to have not 7 range or 8 range, but 11 range, because right now it's 10, and 10 plus 1, maybe 1.5 in some occasions if it's a fast unit, it's going to give me more range. So if I have spine crawlers behind, Infestors behind spine crawlers and other units, they can be really far back and still hit everything with projectiles from the distance. So it's a completely different unit now. It's more like a long-distance artillery that you can zone out areas because you can shoot in a fungal preemptively to make somebody not go there, or you can even, or if he goes there, you hit him right away. So Infestors are going to be incredibly strong in Heart of the Swarm still. And I wouldn't be surprised if actually the range gets reduced a little bit again because of that. But maybe that's just my opinion.
All right. So again, I want to ask about unit interactions because you kind of glossed over that point. What is the one Zerg thing that you're most excited to get your hands on?
Everything. Well, okay. The thing about Zerg right now is in Wings of Liberty, it's very mobile in the early game. It becomes slower the longer the game goes on, and I hate that. I hate sitting on my bases with Brood Lords and Infestors, and I just get tired of it, and I don't want to play like that. In Heart of the Swarm, you're gonna have mobile end game compositions, which is gonna be way more fun. You're gonna be able to split up your army more often because you're gonna be able to play Roach, Hydra, Viper. You're gonna be able to zone out areas with Swarm hosts, and Ultralists are gonna be a little bit better. I think that's what I'm looking for the most. Multi-prong attacks from different locations, much more Brood War style than StarCraft 2 style. And because right now, to be honest, Zerg in late game becomes incredibly boring in Wings of Liberty, and I'm a little bit tired of it. And Heart of the Swarm is hopefully going to change that and put some more action on the map again. Much more unit movement, posturing, and flanking, and all that kind of stuff.
Completely feel the same way, and agree on all points, I guess. Let's talk about maps. How closely do you follow the pro scene as like a spectator? Do you watch a lot of Pro League? Do you watch a lot of GSL?
I watch it pretty casually. I'm not somebody who wakes up every day and watches lots, but like once a week I probably catch something.
Well, you've certainly played in a lot of these tournaments. How important is good mapping to the success of the game?
Absolutely essential. Basically, maps can completely break or make an RTS. If you look at Brood War, much of the balance was done via maps, which is a much more soft way to balance the game. Because just changing the universal rules can be very harmful, or can be done in the wrong way. Sometimes, not saying it happens, Blizzard, I'm not saying that, but the nice thing about maps is that you can create individual situations, and then you can see how the game plays out in that, without having to break the game. So you can test much more, right?
Right.
If you bring out a new patch, you're gonna screw over everything if you do it wrong. If you bring out one wrong map that isn't that great, it might suck if it's in tournaments for a little bit. But then you can try something new out until you essentially find perfect maps. And I think it's good that Pro League and GSL is trying out a lot new maps. And I think it's still a really long way until we have really good maps. Right now, I think most of them are still a little bit flawed, but we're definitely going into the right direction right now, I think, with Pro League and getting in there and making new maps as well.
When you look at the StarCraft 2 ladder, right now, this is pretty much hands down the way that most people get their practice done. You log on to Battlenet, you hit that find match button, and you go. If you could improve the online experience in any way, be it by making adjustments to the ladder or maybe by making adjustments elsewhere, what would you do as one of the world's premier StarCraft 2 players? How would you change Battlenet to make for a better playing experience?
First of all, give me back my command lines that I had on Battlenet. Give me an F list, and then I can just go /FM, and then I'm gonna message all my friends, because that way it's so much easier to build up friendship, to build up training, partnership together. Essentially, honestly, just make it Warcraft 3 Battlenet. That Battlenet was fucking amazing, and it was just good in every single way, almost. One thing I'd actually like to see also is to add an option when I search ladder to make my opponents anonymous, because lots of people don't like barcodes, but barcodes have something nice about them, because I'm not going to make any assumption about my opponents. That way I'm going to have to play much more general. I can't just try and counter people. So if I want to put in a practice session like that, it would be lovely to just have a box to check and make all my opponents barcodes, and then I can just turn it off again when I don't like that. In general, any video game company, please give us more options to just customize things, because we're adults and we can make our own choices. I hate how there's this modern trend of minimizing things. In old games, you could always do so much stuff on your own and change stuff, and that's not really what they make you do anymore nowadays. So that's my my thoughts here, I think.
Cool. Dario, we've been talking for about half an hour. I'm going to keep you for about 15 more minutes. I want to talk to you a little bit about life outside of gaming. Because you are a really cherished personality in the StarCraft scene. You have some fantastic fans. I think you have one of the most popular Facebook pages of all StarCraft 2 pros. When you're not playing video games, what the hell are you doing?
Pretty normal stuff, I guess. I'm currently living together with my best friend. He's studying, so I'm doing lots of student stuff. That comes with that. Go to parties. I read a lot. I really read a lot. I think I've probably been reading like book every 2 weeks at least over the past few months. And I like being outside. Nature is great. I like cycling, just being in the countryside too, actually, to get away from all the computers and stuff like that. And I think I'm a pretty regular guy in most places, so probably pretty boring.
Well, as a reader, I have to ask you for a book suggestion. What's the best that you've read recently?
What genres do you like?
I just read the most recent Dresden Files book. I love fantasy and science fiction and stuff like that.
Okay, so that's going to be easy to recommend a lot of stuff. My favorite author has become Neil Gaiman, I think, lately. I read all his books now, I think. So you should definitely check him out. American Gods is a really, really great book. I like Never Aware of Him really a lot. And recently, I started reading the Culture series from Ian M. Banks, sci-fi. I think there's maybe like 8 books he wrote in that universe. They're not sequels to each other. They just all play in the same universe, which I like a lot because sequels can sometimes really run into the sand. But I like when you have a lot of different books in the same universe because you can elaborate on a lot of things. So Ian M. Banks' Culture series is what I'm reading at the moment, and definitely recommending it to everybody as well.
TLO, you are regarded, especially by the lady fans out there, as one of the handsomest of all pro gamers. What is your lady friend situation? Do you have a girlfriend? If a big Dario Vunch fangirl wanted to come give you a kiss, how would she have to go about doing that?
I don't have a girlfriend. It's pretty tough actually finding time for that as a programmer, and I was moving around so much for the past 2 years that didn't really make that easier because I've been living in Sweden for a year, I've been living in Korea for a year, and I've been all over the place. So having a girlfriend that is like, you kind of need to be at the same place a little bit because I hate long distance relationships. And what did a fangirl need to do to give me a kiss? Well, I don't think she would be allowed to unless we get to know each other.
The collective hearts of thousands was just crushed.
Oh, no. Here's the thing. Like, I'm not that easy. Anyways. So, yeah, she needs to get to know me, and maybe then later on she can kiss me if she is high quality enough for me to accept that.
That's fantastic. TLO, of course, stands for the little one. There is also a big one out there somewhere. You've got an older brother. Is that your only sibling? What's your family like? Tell us a little bit about your bros.
The big one is the youngest of my 3 older brothers. So I have 3 brothers. I'm the youngest one, and yeah, that's pretty awesome because we get along with each other really, really well. And I'm grateful for that because having brothers is awesome because it's just like having best friends for life, just from the very beginning of your life, and that's really cool.
Are your brothers active in gaming, or have they kind of moved on to other, parts of their lives?
Well, basically, my oldest brother and TBO, they're still playing video games, but just casually, not competitive or anything. And my second oldest doesn't really play video games anymore at all. But when I was younger, we always played video games together. I still remember. Do you know Micro Machines? That
of course.
Game of the Yeah, we used to play that together on one keyboard with 4 people.
Wow.
Because
That
we
is
never had.
such a throwback to childhood. Multiplayer computer games on the same keyboard.
Yeah, I know.
And as the little brother, of course, you were getting shoved off into the corner that nobody wanted.
That's actually true. No, well, maybe I don't know. I was a pretty needy youngest brother, so I think I got my will through a lot because I have really kind of big brothers.
That's pretty cool, man. Just about 5 more minutes. I want to talk to you a little bit about what esports has meant to you in the grand scheme of your life. You have gone all around the world. You have met people. You have developed friendships. You have established an incredible fan base. What do you take away from all of this? If tomorrow somebody were to walk in and say, Dario, it's time to move on to the next phase of your life. You cannot be involved in esports anymore. What do you take away from it all?
Whole lot of things, I think, more than anything else could have taught me in the last 2 years. Like, if I would have been at university for 2 years, I think I would be less qualified to find a job than I am now. I've gained confidence, most of all. I used to be pretty shy as a person, maybe. I don't think I'm that shy anymore. And I learned to work hard, which is something I was never good at. I'm a naturally lazy person, and I still have to constantly fight against myself not to fall back into bad patterns. But that's nothing I ever learned at school or university. So that's something I'm really grateful for. That, and I now know that when I really like something, I can work for it and try to improve myself. And most of all, I learned to appreciate my friends and family more than I have before. Especially the friends I made before StarCraft 2, because I was away from them so long, and I kind of lost contact to them to some extent because of that for a while. I started to appreciate the people who are really close to me much more, because it's not just natural to me anymore and nothing I always expect to be there. But something I have to work for myself. And that's really cool to know, like, these people I can always count on, but it's something you have to appreciate in your life. It's not just there. You have to do something for it.
You've seen things, you've been places, you have gone around the world. In some cases, literally traveling from event to event, circumnavigating the globe numerous times. In all of your travels, what place has left the biggest impression on you?
What place has left the biggest impression? I guess that's different from what's my favorite place, right? So it's just basically what impacted me the most. Um, well, I think being in Stockholm for almost a year had the biggest impact on me, especially because for the first time in my life, I was living completely on my own there for half a year. I was doing the pros for like half a year, then my own flat for half a year. And that was kind of cool to like be completely independent from any other human being. And I think that changed me a lot. And just in general, living in another European culture that I can communicate with people, but I'm still not at home. While being in Korea, you're so limited in what you can actually do. While it's so exotic, you're still in your little shell, kind of, because I'm gonna spend time with my mates, and I'm still in this StarCraft 2 shell. While in Stockholm, I was kind of thrown out there on my own and was gaining more independence, I think.
Cool. That's very cool, man. And I guess my final question for you as we wrap up this interview. Thank you, by the way, for taking the time to talk to me.
No problem.
And for making a contribution to the Razer Academy. I want to know if you are special. And what I mean by that, you have you've just talked to me for 40 minutes about the amazing life that you lead and how gaming has done so much for you. Have you been around the world? Have you made these friends? Is this a path that you can recommend to somebody else, or is it a path that only a few special people can walk? If some young person came to you and said, TLO, I really feel like I can do something as a pro gamer, what would you say to them?
I don't think I'm special at all. I think I'm as mundane as a human being comes in many ways. It's just, well, first of all, I think if you become a programmer, there's lots of coincidences and lots of luck involved to make it through that path. Lots of the stories of how I became a programmer almost sounds like fate, even though I don't believe in anything like that. But would I recommend for a young person to try to become a programmer? I would, in general, recommend everybody to just try to follow their ambitions and dreams. But when you go for it, you have to work harder than you ever worked in your life, and at the same time, you can't throw anything like everything else away. So I think it's extremely difficult to become a programmer if you haven't been as lucky as me, for example, that I just kind of became it without trying. And well, obviously I was like trying, but you know what I mean. I was pretty lucky in lots of ways to find the right people at the right time. And I don't think I'm special, that I can play in a way that other people can't. It just really comes down to hard work. If you work hard for anything in your life, you can achieve it. Maybe you're going to fail at a thing or two, but as long as you keep trying, work really hard, eventually you're going to find something you're really good at. And if you never give up, you're going to just reach your goals no matter what. And that's what I believe in, and that's, I think, pretty universal and not just towards StarCraft 2.
Oh, Dario, I love you so much for giving me that answer, man. That's exactly what I was fishing for. Dario TLO Wunsch of Team Liquid, also of Team Razer. We can say that as he's rocking that Razer Electro headset. TLO, before we go, I just want to give you the chance to say any sort of final word to anybody out there that might be listening, that might have tuned in to hear some sagely advice from the great TLO.
First of all, I want to thank Razer too for having me. For you having to do that segment, I'm just here talking, responding, much less work. But yeah, thanks for Razer, and here you can hear the beautiful black metal in the background. Clicking away a little bit. And is there anybody else I want to give a shout out? I just want to thank everybody who helped me achieve my goals. There are so many of them who really built up my career, and there are so many people who help me on a daily to weekly to yearly basis. Like basically, there are so many people supporting me. Without them, I would be nothing, and I think the people know who they are. So just thanks for that, and I try to not disappoint and give my best in the future still, so that eventually I'm gonna make it to the very top. And that's thanks to you guys out there, my fans, my friends, my family.
Awesome, thank you, Dario. What's your Twitter?
At Liquid TLO, pretty easy.
What's your Facebook?
Facebook / Dario TLO, I think. Yeah. Liquid TLO was taken, so it's Dario, my first name, and then
someone
TLO.
took Liquid TLO.
It's actually taken on every single page on the world. I can't make any account anywhere. Like Liquid TLO is always taken. Like it can be completely unrelated to any gaming. It's a hard life being famous, I tell you.
That's ridiculous. All right, man. Thank you again, guys. Follow him on Twitter, follow him on Facebook, and, of course, support his team, teamliquid.net. Dario, it's been a pleasure, man. I'll talk to you later.
Likewise. Bye-bye.
Ciao.